Okay, so Shalom, Daniela.
Shalom, shalom.
All right, everybody. So it's me, Parazah, along with Zaquan Nathaniela, and we back with "It's About Time." And the purpose of "It's About Time" is all about time, right? It's all about time and time from the Bible, and actually teaching about time. As we see it, beginning from Genesis, chapter 1, which gives a foundation for everything. Zaquan, you want to say anything real quick, Nathaniela?
Uh, hey, y'all gotta turn it down a little bit. Say it again.
I'm saying, do you have anything you want to say before we get into it?
No, just go ahead and get into it.
All right, so this is again, it's about time, where we go over the scriptures and discuss the concepts of time to clear up, a lot of the doctrines that we have, a lot of the doctrines that people are teaching, a lot of doctrines that we need to know and understand regarding time and regarding the Father Yahweh and regarding the moon, regarding the months, regarding the year, and regarding, especially from the beginning, dealing with the concepts of the days. Okay. Now, the first thing we want to do, which one of y'all is going to be the reader? Let's get the Kumas each to it. Let's get the Kumas in there. All right. We're gonna have something for you too. Don't worry, plenty of work to go around. First thing we want to do is when we go into Genesis and we see in the beginning. Okay. It says Ba Ra Ash Bara Ashef. Hey, Shalom, April. Haven't seen you in such a long time. All right.
You put the light on too.
Go in there and turn that go Nathaniela.
Yeah, God.
Yeah, we try to maintain a kind of a professional, presentation here. Okay. So you might want to mute the phone when you're talking about fans and cheeseburgers. Okay. Go turn the other phone off, turn the speaker off of the other phone. See if the speaker's on. All right, so now the first thing we want to do is we want to go over the beginning. All right, we want to do just a quick review. We want to say in the beginning. Now we've already discussed the fact that when the Bible says in the beginning in Genesis 1:1, what it's actually saying is it's saying in, okay, right there, which is ba, okay. And then it's also saying Ra'ash, which means head, okay? That's head, all right? So Ba, and then Ra'ash, which means head, and then the Yath is a feminine suffix. So the word beginning itself is a feminine word that means in the head or in the beginning, female, all right? Now, I know I've seen a lot of people says, oh, when it says Ba Ra'asha, it's really saying bar, and then bar is going into the first, which is the most high. So the son of the first. All right. But bar is an Aramaic word. Aramaic was not the language of creation. All right. Hebrew, Ibadia, was the language of creation. So this is not bar. All right. This is exactly what it says. There's no special tricks to it. It's Ba Ra'asha. Okay, let me write it again. All right. Ba Ra'ash Ya. So Bara Asha. Bara Asha means the beginning. All right. Means the beginning. All right. Hope y'all can see that pretty good. Got a little flying creature that, all right, wants to share the screen. Right. So when we go into Genesis, we see in the beginning. But what we have to understand is that when Genesis says in the beginning, it's talking about a spirit of wisdom. And we're going to go in the Bible and we're going to show that to you, not prove it to you, but we're going to show you that it's talking about a spirit of the spirit of wisdom. So let's go into Genesis chapter 1. Read that Genesis chapter 1 and read verse 1. In Hebrew.
Bara'ashiath.
So Bara'ashiath, which means in the beginning or in the head, which is talking about wisdom. And we're going to show you, so bear with me. We're going to show you how it's talking about wisdom. I know you're waiting to see it, but we're going to show it to you. Bara'ashiath, go ahead.
Bara'ah.
Bara'ah. So Bara'ah. So everything was together that was needed. All right, everything was together, everything was created, all the elements were made. Every organism that exists that we have now happened in Genesis 1 and 1. Atoms, neutrons, protons, hydrogen. Okay, hydrogen, helium, oxygen, nitrogen. Read that again.
Bara'ashiath.
Bara'ashiath, go ahead.
Bara'ah.
Bara'ashiath, Bara'ah, go ahead.
Alahayim.
So Alahayim, which is the powers, created. Bara'ashiath, Alahayim, created. Go ahead.
Ath.
He created two Atord. Go ahead.
Hashemayim.
So he created all of the elements in Hashemayim. So everything that you see before you was created in Genesis 1 and 1. Go ahead.
Wa'ath. Ha'aratazah.
Wa'ath ha'aratazah, which means and two toward the earth. So everything that's in earth and everything that's above, everything that's all around you was created in Genesis 1 and 1. So what happens after Genesis 1 and 1, the elements were created in Genesis 1 and 1. Now, what you see after Genesis 1 and 1 is all these elements being formed and created into physical, tangible things, persons, people, animals, right? Light and sun, all right? All right, so now we made a very profound statement at the beginning. We said that in the, now this remember, Bara'ah, when we see Bara'ah in Genesis 1 and 1, what that's saying is that everything was created. All of the elements on the periodic table of elements were created in Genesis 1 and 1. And then Yahweh brought everything together and created things from these things. All right, what you call like a primordial creation is how you may phrase that. So Genesis 1 and 1. So now let's go into Genesis 1 and 1 again. Read it again. Read the first word again.
Bara'ashiath.
All right, now read the first syllable.
Ba.
Ba is the Hebrew word that means in. Okay, ba means in. Go ahead.
Ra'ashiath.
Ba ra'ashath. So in the head. All right, so let's do exactly what it says. In, okay. In the head. That's a little pick in the afro in the bush right there. All right. So in the head is what it's talking about. Ba ra'ashath means in the head, also known as in the beginning. Now, why did we go back to here? Because the first thing we see from creation, all right? The opposite of in is what? Out. The opposite of in is out. So already from Genesis 1 and 1, we're given instructions about parameters. Opposite. Okay, get the red apocryphal film in there. I think it's in there. I believe it's in there. Okay. So now, so when we see that the beginning, the first word in the Bible is the word in, immediately we see that Yahweh is creating a condition for contrast. That Yahweh, hey, shalom, Trayvon. that Yahweh is creating a situation where we're going to have contrast. We're going to have opposites. We're going to have things that are on both sides of the spectrum. Okay, and things are going to be balanced. Okay, so here we see that things are going to be balanced. Okay, when we read Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. All right, Genesis 1 and 1. So now, a very important, now this is all taught in Genesis 1 and 1. The first syllable, ba, means in. All right, see if that red apocrypha is over there. The first word inside of Genesis in the Bible we see is the word in. All right. Está aquí, el libro está acá. Make sure nothing else got unplugged over there. We don't want nothing. So let's go into the book of Ecclesiasticus. Ecclesiasticus chapter 33. And let's look at verse 15. Let's look at Ecclesiastes chapter 33, verse 15. So when we go in Genesis and it says in the beginning. In the beginning tells us what? It's a matter of perspective. All right. Let's read Ecclesiastes 33 and 33 and 15. Go ahead.
So look upon all the works of the Most High.
Look upon all the works of the Most High. Go ahead.
And there are 2 and 2.
There are what?
2 and 2.
2 and 2. You have darkness. All right. Chashak. All right, let me see this. You have darkness, which is right, you have darkness, which is chashak, right? You have darkness, which is chashak, and then you have the opposite of that, which is a war, which is light. You have night, and then you have the opposite, which is day. All right, read that part again.
So look upon all the works of the Most High.
So in everything in creation, you have a proton, and then you have an electron. You have positive, you have negative, you have up, you have down, you have left, you have right. You have the sun, and you have the lesser light, the moon. You have the earth, and then you have the heavens. You have opposites. You have Hashatan, Satan, and you have Yahushua, Christ, with the word called Christ in English, but Yahushua Hamashiach. So read that verse from the top again.
So look upon all the works of the Most High.
So it says, look upon the works of the Most High. Go ahead.
And there are 2 and 2.
There are 2 and 2. Go ahead.
One against another.
So what's against in is out. Simple as that. So this is the pattern that we have to understand before we move any further into Genesis. That Yahweh, he made his creations opposite each other. It says there are 2 and 2, one against another. All right. Now let's go into chapter 43, verse 24. I'm sorry, 42, 24. Ecclesiasticus chapter 42, verse 24.
All things are double.
All things are what?
Are double.
In and out. Now this is going to be very important to understand time and the months and the days. All things are double. Go ahead.
One against another.
Once again, things are one against another means a contrast or opposites. Go ahead.
And he hath made nothing imperfect.
So he made nothing imperfect.
One thing establisheth the good, and another.
So remember when you finish reading the verse, look up at me so I know you finished reading the verse, so we don't just keep on going till we reach Revelation chapter 22. So he says one thing establishes the good of another, but it says the works of the Most High are double, and it says again one against another. So one is against another. That means that when it says in, that means that something is out. Now let's keep going. In the beginning, all right.
Bara'ah
Uh-huh.
Alahayim.
So Alahayim, God created. Go ahead.
Ath Hashemayim.
Created the heavens. Okay, now once again, created the heavens. Okay. And that,
Wa'ath Ha'aratazah.
and created the Aratazah, which is the earth. So once again, that contrast, we have when you have the heavens that you look opposite of the earth. All right, you have opposite of the earth. So you have earth, okay, and then the opposite of that you have the heavens. So this is what we have to understand. It's going to be very important as we move as we move forward, all right? Because these concepts have to be understood when we're dealing with time and when we're dealing with what is the purpose of the Most High's creation and how do we use it, all right? So let's erase this. Now, in verse 1, we see that the Most High Yahweh, and we see that he has perspective. All right, he has perspective and he has opposites, and he created things 2 by 2. Read verse 2.
Wa'aratazah
Mm-hmm.
Hayafi.
Mm-hmm.
The hot.
We'll read it in English.
And when the earth was astonishingly empty.
So the earth was empty as opposed to what? Full. You see that? Here we see the same thing from the beginning. The first word, we see the earth was what? Was empty, as opposed to now it's pretty full, right? So the opposite applies when we read inside the book of Genesis. So Yahweh said he created things 2 by 2s. Go ahead.
With darkness.
So with what?
With darkness.
With darkness. Once again, darkness as opposed to what? As opposed to light. You see that? So already we see that the Most High is setting things up. He's about to do something. So first off, we see that it's talking about what? Darkness, which is kashak. Okay, so here we have already we have darkness right here. We have darkness. I read.
Upon the surface of the deep.
Uh-huh.
And the presence of the divine hovered upon the surface of the waters.
Mm-hmm.
Elohim said, let there be.
Now, what verse you in?
Verse 2 now.
All right, so now 2, we have heaven and earth. Those are opposites. Okay. Verse 3.
Elohim said, let there be light.
So now, what we see from verse 2, what we see from verse 2 is that, read verse 2 again.
When the earth was astonishingly empty, with darkness.
With what?
With darkness.
Where did the darkness come from? See, the beginning of our time and times as we know them, as pertains to us on the earth, is darkness. Whether you're talking about the day, whether you're talking about the moon, it's darkness. It starts with darkness. So the time that Yahweh is telling us about in Genesis chapter 1 is about dark. It starts with darkness, and then the light comes, right? Darkness, and then the light comes. So this is something that we have to understand. So when we see teachings that say, oh, the Sabbath starts when the sun comes up, or the day starts when the sun comes up, or when we see people saying that the month starts when there's a crescent moon, when there's a sliver moon, we're going back to basics in Genesis. We have to understand these things in Genesis first before we jump to these other books and try to proclaim a new hidden doctrine that's been revealed to us. You see, and that's how we gotta do it. I keep reading. Okay, so darkness is the beginning of time for our purposes as we know it. So 1, we see that we have a perspective of in and out from Genesis verse 1. 2, we see that heaven versus earth, we see opposites. Okay, that's verse 2. And also in verse 2, we see that the darkness is the beginning of our time. All right, so that we see the darkness is the beginning of our time. And the fourth thing we see was that the light was made, and the light was divided between the light and between the darkness. And then we're going to try to jump into what that means. All right, read that. Read verse 4. I'm sorry, read verse 3 and 4.
Elohim said,
Uh-huh.
let there be light, and there was light.
Let there be light, and there was light. So first we had the darkness. Remember, we had the darkness, then we had the light. But when the light was created, if you can see this really good, the light and the darkness were blended together. That's why I have the darkness here, then I have the shiny of the light coming out of it. All right, so that's like the the light and the dark blended together, and they were blended together when Yahweh created the darkness, and then he created the light. They were blended together initially. How do we know they were blended together? Keep reading.
Elohim saw the light, that it was good. And Elohim separated.
Elohim what?
Separated. So
God Almighty, Yahweh Shai, wisdom, they did what? They separated, which is Yah-Badal. That's why we got these things going in different directions. They separated the what?
Between the light.
Between. Now, if between means that there's something that keeps two things from coming together. All right. My hands, my hands are together. Right now, there's air and space between my hands, and nothing between us but air and opportunity. Right? But there's air between my hands now. Right now, if I take this book, okay, this book is between my hands. So the mystery that we need to understand is what is between the light and the dark, and that's what we're going to go into today to show you that the day is composed of the day itself from Genesis as just the light, and that is also composed of the evening and the morning as another aspect of day. So we're going to try to go into that, and then we're going to get more specific to show you the three biblical phases of that we can see in the evening. Now, whether there's more or whether there's others that fit in between these three, perhaps there are. I'm not an expert. I just study these aspects of it. You may go out and study and see it, and you may want to add to it. I really welcome that. I really welcome any more information that you have that will help this concept become more palatable for people. All right. So what we just covered was the fact that the light, read that part again about the light and the darkness.
And Elohim separated between the light and between the darkness.
So he separated. Now, why does it say between? Why does it say between? Why don't you just say he separated between, he separated, okay, now separated just like, okay, now there's, it's separated. But then he say he separated between. So there's different elements between the light and the dark. There's elements that buffer the light and the dark. And we're going to, you know these elements as dawn, as dusk, as twilight, but they're all part of the day. They're all part of the day. So we're going to go into that concept. All right, we're going to go into that concept. We're going to show that a day indeed is made up of darkness to darkness. If we don't, if we aren't able to grasp it from Genesis, surely we can grasp it after we go into these scriptures and show from Genesis and giving references from other books in the Bible, not extra books. Remember, because the whole purpose of what we're trying to do on It's About Time is to show you based on the Bible, and the Bible alone is the supreme doctrine source for whatever we need to know and understand. Let me say it again. The Bible, there's no hidden things that we need to know that have been lost for centuries in some other books that we just now digging up. every single thing we need to know and understand to worship the Father in spirit and in truth is found inside of the Holy Bible. It's found inside the Torah. That's what we have to understand and believe, and we have to then act upon that belief. Okay, so now, what verse you reading?
Verse 5.
All right, please, and those again, please just read verse 5 again, man.
Elohim called the light day.
Elohim called the light day. Now read what you got, man. Call your verse and read what you got.
Ecclesiasticus chapter 42, verse 24.
Go ahead, read.
All things are double, one against another.
All things are double. So the Most High made sets of twos, one against another. The light is set against the darkness. The light is set against the darkness. Those are two things that are double. Read.
And he hath made nothing imperfect.
So they don't blend together to begin a new phase. They don't blend together to begin a new phase. When the new phase begins, now he said he made everything double, right? One against another. I really, because this is such an intricate topic, let's go to Ecclesiasticus 43 verse right there, huh? 43 verse 6. Let's go there. Let's go to Ecclesiasticus chapter 43 verse 7. Let's go to verse 7.
The month is called after her name.
The month is called after the name Chadash. All right, that's how we say the word month in Hebrew, is Chadash. All right, which means new. Go ahead.
Increasing wonderfully in her changing.
The light increases wonderfully in her changing. Go ahead.
Being an instrument of armies above.
Okay, being an instrument of armies above. Go ahead.
Shining in the firmament of heaven.
Mm-hmm.
The beauty of heaven, the glory of the stars.
Mm-hmm.
An ornament giving light in the highest places of Yahweh.
Now let's go to verse 7 again.
From the moon is a sign of feast.
Uh-huh.
A light that decreases.
A light that what?
That decreases.
That decreases in what?
In her perfection.
In her perfection. That perfection goes back to the beginning in Genesis that said that the Most High created the darkness first, then he created the light. So her perfection. Now go back to chapter 43, chapter 42, and read verse 24.
All things are double, one against another.
So the light is made against the darkness. These two are opposites. Go ahead.
And he hath made nothing imperfect.
He has made nothing imperfect, which means that these are opposites. So he didn't make nothing imperfect, meaning that it's going to be some kind of blending together of the light and the dark. And that's when we're going to begin to count the month. That's against what we're taught in Genesis. That's when we're going to begin to count the day, or when we have sun. So it's easy to look at Genesis and just to be humble and observe it and read exactly what it says and to go off of that. But when you get into all these different books, they can confuse you because they lead you away from what the Bible is saying, and you don't want to study the Bible anymore. The Bible is written in Hebrew, and we're looking at other books and the Bible in English, and we're trying to get some deeper understanding. But the understanding of the Bible is always from the Holy Spirit and the Spirit of wisdom, and is a lot of times going to be in the original Hebrew text, which is why we have the Hebrew text up here. And we're going to tell you what the words mean as we need. Yabadal means he divided. All right. So we said those are opposites. So let's go back into chapter 1 and let's read verse 3 again.
Elohim said, let there be light, and there was light. Elohim saw the light, that it was good.
Right.
And Elohim separated between the light and between the darkness.
So Elohim separated, which is Yabadal, between, which is right here. He separated between the light. He separated between the light and the darkness. The light and the darkness were not blended together permanently. Now we see, which is a very good point. If the Bible says that he did what?
Separated between the light and between the darkness.
Now, how could he separate between the light and the darkness? Why did he separate between the light and the darkness? What happened when he created the light? It had to be mixed with the darkness. Perfect. Perfect. The light had to be mixed with the darkness when he created it. And thus, the Bible, the Torah, we're going off the Torah. You know, he's reading in the Torah. He's reading the Torah. You got the English, and he has the, this is just commentary down here. This is the actual Torah text, right? So he's reading the English and the Hebrew. So he separated between what?
Between light and between the darkness.
Now that word between is a very, very basic but complex word. Between, bayan, all right? Because the word between in the Bible is translated as so many different words. Okay, it's translated as so many different words. Translated as distinguished, and it's also translated as separate. So it's translated as so many different ways. So we have to understand once he separated between, okay, because it says wa yabadal alahaya bayan. Read that in Hebrew.
Bayan.
No, start from the beginning.
Wa ya ra'ah.
No, go to Wayabadal. Start there.
Wayabadal.
Wayabadal, which means Alahayim separated. Read.
Alahayim.
Alahayim or Elohim, he separated. What did he separate?
Bayan.
Bayan meaning between. Bayan meaning between. Go ahead.
Ha'awar.
Ha'awar or ha'or. He separated between the light. Go ahead.
Wabayan.
And between wabayan and between what?
Hakashak.
Hakashak. So he separated between the light. He separated between the darkness and the light. And if you look on the board, that's exactly what we've done. We've separated. This is how it looked at creation. So we have two things. We have, this is number one, create the darkness. All right. And then number two, he created the light. They blended together. And then we have what? Number three, the light is separated. Ain't that beautiful? It's crystal clear, right? Is this clear or what? Is this clear or what? You know, this is clear. You know, if you show Trump this, you know, he gonna open the government back up and not build a wall. If you show him this, he gonna be like, man, that's deep. I'm not gonna build no wall. I want all the Mexicans to come up to America now. I want all the tribe of Issachar and Zebulun and Asher and Naphtali and Judah. Oh, nobody. Well, Judah, yeah, Judah. I want all y'all come up and teach us some more of this biblical knowledge. You see that? So, 1, 2, 3. Darkness is created. Light is created, blended with the darkness. And the third stage is that the light is separated from the darkness. All right, read the is that verse 4? Okay, that's in the verse 4. Okay, so now when he divided, now this is how, now if y'all don't mind, you know, I know some of y'all might be looking on the video and some of y'all might be on the conference call. All right, I'm gonna show you a little card right here that I put together, and I'm gonna try my best to convey to you what I have written on this card. So basically what we have, I did some studying for this thing. You know, we ain't just coming up here and, you know, I've been studying all morning, you know, and now we're going into the afternoon, and, you know, got me a little rinse off before the sun went down, got a little nice refreshing going into the new day, you know, good, you know, fresh dressed like $1,000,000, threw on the ballet shoes and the fly green socks. All right. So we have three kinds of evening. So the between part we want to focus on, okay? We want to focus on the between part. So if you can see this, this shows you how Yabadal, the Most High, separated the light and the dark. So if he separated the light and the dark, when the light decreases from the moon, that's the beginning of a new month. When the light decreases from the day, that's the beginning of a new day. It's the beginning of a new day. Because the beginning, this is always the beginning. This is always the beginning. That's why it says the evening and the morning were the first day. All right? The evening and the morning, but they were composed of what? Darkness and light. They were composed of night and day, Yawam. So go back to verse 2. Go back to verse 3, actually. And this is something we have to look at also. I want you to read verse 3, and then I want you to read verse 5. 3 verse.
Elohim said, let there be light.
Let there be light. Go ahead.
And there was light.
So there was light. So here we have the light.
Elohim called the light day.
Okay, you see that? He called the light day. He called the light day. So the light itself is a day. Now, mind you, this is before the sun. This is before the moon was created. This is before the stars were created. This is before the circle of stars and the constellation, before they were created. This is before all those things were created. So this light that we're talking about is not from the sun, is not from the moon, is not from the stars. This light that we created is going into remember those raw elements that were created. Yahweh is drawing those elements together, whether we're talking about helium or whether we're talking about hydrogen. He's drawing those elements together and making like what we call like a nebula. Just, just light, dark, then darkness, then light, and then they blend it together. He said, okay, y'all separate. Separate. All right. Everything is separated now. So now he said that he called the light what?
The light day.
So the first form of light, okay. The first form of the day is the light. Okay, that's the first form of the light. That's the first form of the day, which is the word yom in the modern Hebrew, and then yawam in the ancient Hebrew pronunciation, the Paleo pronunciation, yom, yawam. That's what we call a day. But now, when Ariyashan jumps down to verse 5, vamos a aprender algo diferente también, pero el mismo, la misma palabra, pero algo diferente. We're going to learn something different. Same word, but a different concept. Read that, please.
Elohim called the light day, and the darkness he called night.
Okay.
And there was evening.
Wait. There were, so now, am I yelling? So there were evening. There were evening and what?
And there was morning.
And there were morning. So evening and morning were what?
One day.
One day. You see that? So evening and morning are what? One day. Check that out. So now you got two different definitions for the word day. All right? Two definitions for the word day. You got the day, which is the light that was created. And then you have the evening and the morning, which is the light and the darkness working together to make one day. Now go to verse, this is verse 5. Go to verse 8. What does it say? You on it? Go to verse 8. What does it say?
Elohim called the firmament heaven.
And
there was evening.
Wait. So again, now this is we're going into the second day now, right? So there was what?
There was evening.
So once again, we see that day is what? There was what?
Evening.
There was evening and what?
And there was morning. A second day.
And there was morning. A what?
A second day.
A second day. All right. A second day. So we see day is used just from those 8 verses. We see a day is being counted. All right. And the evening is when we start to count that day. to begin with. The evening and the morning were so if you notice between here, you have light, then you have a evening and a morning, then you have an evening and the morning. The question is, what comes between the evening and the morning, right? What do you call that time between the evening and the morning? And what do you call the time between the morning and the evening, right? So that's when we get, so these are, remember, extremes, all right? When you, what happens in the morning? What happens in the morning time? Tell me what happens in the morning. The sun starts to rise, start to come up, all right? That's the Hebrew concept of nashap. Nashap is when you have the light coming up on the horizon. It could be coming up as dawn, or it could be going down as dusk. So when Yahweh he's put between the night and the light, the darkness and the light, the night and the day, when he put something between there, what he put between there was three main things that we're going to go into right now. All right, we're going to go into it right now, and we're going to pull it from the scriptures. We're going to pull it from the scriptures. So, so you can let's get the other book over there, or let's get one of the big books over there, and you can take a break. Now, everybody got this, I hope. If you don't got this, look on the video or rewind it and get it again. So basically, what we just showed you was that when people say, "Oh, there's only the daylight is the day," that's wrong. Genesis clearly shows us that evening and morning equal one day. Now, I don't want to go to no other books yet. Any books we go to are going to be compounding on this concept. We're not going to another book to prove something different. We're establishing the facts here first, because you know it as well as I know that when it goes from evening to morning, it doesn't just happen all of a sudden. It's a gradual increase in darkness, and then there's a gradual increase in light. And then when there's an increase in the light, there's a gradual decrease in that light. Then there's a gradual increase in darkness, and it keeps going just like that. It keeps going the same cycle. All right. So let's erase this. All right. And what we're gonna do, I'm gonna try my best to show you how evening and morning kind of blend together. Now, this is what people call like a dusk, dawn, twilight, astronomical, or civil, nautical, astronomical. There's three phases that they use, but we're not going to really pay attention to those phases just yet. We're going to just give you the Hebrew concept, and then you can go back and do your own research and say, well, this one is what the Gentiles call this. But we're going to give you the Hebrew concepts. All right. So already we're making, I think that we're making, I think that we're making good progress. And I'd like to commend you all for staying around and listening as long as you have. I know time isn't the most, exciting topic, but it's important that we want to worship and that we want to see, how we're supposed to be doing things the proper way. Okay. So now I'm going to erase this. Okay, well, let's erase this, and let's see if we can bring out a lot. If we can bring out a lot with a little bit of words. Because this, when people say the Most High, God's calendar, that's what we're talking about, is Yahweh, the creator, the God of Israel, the power of Israel. And we're talking about what he did and how he wants us to regulate time, days, months. And then now we didn't even get into Genesis 1:14 yet. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do, I think I'm now remember, the word evening means when we say the word evening itself means mix. Those letters mean like mixed together. It says evening, but it's an evening of what? It's the light and the dark kind of blending together But then we have phases in that also. You got the beginning part of it and the ending part of it, which transitions us into the night. Okay. So now, since he separated the light from the darkness, okay, the light and the darkness were separated, right? So he said he created the darkness, and then it said he created the light, and he separated between the light and between the dark. Now he separated between the light and between the dark, between and between, because they envelop. It's a cycle. All right. If you build, you know, if you build one house and you put a yard between this house and between the other house, all right. So he says between the light and between the darkness. It says the word between twice, which means that now we have a pattern or a cycle of night and dark and light and day. And we have it going over and over and over and over and over again. And that's what I try to make you understand, is that counting days has nothing to do with the moon. It's an endless cycle that goes on perpetually. It does not stop. It has nothing to do with the cycle of the moon. All right. It's every single period that the sun goes down, we begin a new day. All right. So now I want to go into what's that? Let's go into 3 different types of words. Let's first deal with when he said he created Bayan. So he says, damn, you got any more of these? Go find, we have some more. So it says Yabadal Bayan. So he divided between the what? The darkness and the light, right? So now, so what we have here is okay, we have dark, right? And I'm trying to get another black or blue marker so it can show up a little better. Let's go to let's see. Well, I got to draw it out first so we can see which book and which. Man, this thing is really. This thing is really not trying to write. I guess we kind of stuck with the red for right now, Bonnie. All right, so you know where any are? Is this dry erase? No, this is not a dry erase. This is just a water-based marker. If you use this one, it doesn't really see. Yeah, it's a marker. It's a water-based marker. So if we say the dark, and we want to do everything according to what he said. So we have the dark right here, and then we have the light. And we're starting here because he separated between the light and the dark. And he says the evening and the morning. So better yet, this is what, so we'll start with the darkness. All right. Okay, so now, here comes the red joint. Here comes the black joint. We got the black Sharpie permanent marker. Okay. All right, so we have dark. All right, we have dark. Eddie and Charlie Murphy. Darkness Brothers. All right. So we have dark, and then we have light. Dark and light. Now, it says that he separated. It says Yabadal, which means separate. So he separated. So darkness is kind of like over there, and light is over there. He separated. But then between, it says he separated between them. So between the darkness and the light, we have 3 things happening. Okay, so now It gets dark. Okay, now what happens when it starts to get dark? What's the okay, let's say okay, it's dark. It's pitch black now. It's dark. Okay, it's dark. What happens now? What's the next major thing that's gonna happen? The sun's gonna start to come up again. All right. So, well, let's be broad about it. We're gonna start to see more light. The light is gonna start to become brighter, right? Gonna come out of darkness. Let's go into the book of Job, chapter 3, verse 9. Job 3, verse 9. This is what we call between the dark. Because remember, he said he separated between the dark and the light. So if he separated between the dark and the light, we know that when we go outside and we look up and it's still dark, and we know when we look outside and the evening's coming in, all right, and it's about to be nighttime, we know it doesn't just happen like bam, bam. There's something between it. So we're going to explore what is between the darkness and the light. Okay, let's go on to Job chapter 3, verse 9. What does it say?
Let the stars of the twilight thereof be dark. Let it look for light, but have none. Neither let it see the dawning of the day. So the dawning of the day. The dawning of the day. So this word where it says dawning of the day is the word nashap. Nashap. Okay. So the first one we have is now we start to get a little bit of light. So we'll call that nashap. When we start to get a little bit of light, we start to get light. Let's call that it's dawn. Nashap. Okay. So now, once we get to nashap, what's the next big thing that's gonna happen with that light? It'll get brighter. All right. So now the light starts to get brighter. All right. The light starts to get brighter. So now we have that nashap right here, right? We have nashap. So then that nashap becomes what? It becomes light. All right. That nashap changes into light. Okay. Changes into light. All right. So now, once the nashap changes into the light, let's see what happens now. So here we have the light over here now. Now, what's the next thing that's going to happen once that light gives up, once that sun starts to get high in the sky? What's going to start to happen? It's going to get brighter. And then what happens once it gets bright around noon, what happens then? Now it starts to, but what do you see happening on the earth as the sun after 12 o'clock and the sun starts to go down? What do you see happening on the earth? What do you see? What do you see? You see shadows. Let's go into Nehemiah chapter 13, verse 9. So once the light comes up and the sun is bright, then after that we start to see shadows, which is the Hebrew word tzalal. Tzalal. All right. So now when the light is at its brightest, now that light starts to go down again, and then we have tzalal. Okay. Read Nehemiah 13 and 19. So then we have the tzalal, or tzalal. Tzalal is kind of like a shade or the shadows. All right, the shade of the shadows. Or read Nehemiah 13, 19. And it came to pass.
And it came to pass, meaning this is something that happened. Go ahead.
That when the gates of Jerusalem.
Go ahead.
Began to be dark.
Go ahead.
Before the Shabbat.
Before the Sabbath, the gates began to be dark. What does that mean? What caused the gates to be dark? But what's actually what's happening with the gates? The sun is doing what? It's covering it. It's starting to cover. But what's happening is making what? It's making shadows. How's the gate going to get dark? From the shadow. So now when we start to see the shadows, all right, when we start to see shadows or shade, all right, from noon, from about, let's say, 2 to 3, and then it starts to go down after that, get more and more shade, the shadow starts to get longer, that's Tazalal. That's the next phase that we have between the light and the dark, because now we're going back toward darkness again, all right? So now, once we go into Tazalal, all right, Tazalal, and then it starts to get what? It starts to get kind of dark. What happens after Tazalal? What's the next thing we're gonna see? On what's the next major thing we're gonna see now? What's gonna happen now? There's no more shadow, but what do we see? What do we see when we look over here? No, before that, what happens? What's that word? What's the word? It's a D word. No, dust. There you go, dust. Now, that's the same words, the same concept as Nashap. All right. So now we see Nashap again. So Nashap is just the dusk, the sun going up, or the dawn. I mean, the dawn, the sun going up, or the dusk, the sun going down. That's the second phase that we see between. Remember, all these things are happening between the dark and the light. All right. Let's go into Job 7 and 4. Job chapter 7, verse 4. We're going to Job 7 and 4.
When I lie down, I say.
When I lie down, what?
I say.
When I lie down, I say. Go ahead.
When shall I arise?
When shall I arise? Go ahead.
And the night be gone.
And the night be gone. Go ahead.
I'm full of tossings. To and fro. Until the dawning of the day.
Until the dawning of the day. That's going to be Nashap. Nashap. The dawning of the day here, Nashap. But now the other way is used. Okay, let's go into Job chapter 24, verse 15. How it's used to symbolize, it's used for when the sun is going down, not just at the dawn. Right, Job 24:15. Let's read that.
The eye also of the adulterer.
The eye of the adulterer says what?
Waited for the twilight.
Waited for the twilight. Go ahead.
Saying, no eye shall see me.
No eye shall see me. Go ahead.
In the skies of his face.
In the skies of his face. Go ahead. That's it. So he waited for the twilight, meaning what? He waited for when the sun is going down. Once again, that's the word Nashap. You see, it's the opposite. You can see where Job would say, okay, dawning of the day, Nashap, and then you can see where he say the adulterer is waiting for the nighttime to come so he can slip out at Nashap, that dusk period. All right, you don't wait till it's fully, set, because he gotta get there. So he pressed, he desperate, so he's trying to get over there. So as the sun is setting down, he already on his way over there. All right, so that's the word right there. So now the last phase that we go into, as we reach that darkness, go into Genesis. Let's go to Genesis chapter 15, verse 17. All right, Genesis 17:15. I'm sorry, Genesis 15:17. All right, go ahead, read that. So wait, from darkness, we have one Nashap, then from the shop, then, well, let's say darkness is one is the darkness, then 2 is the shop, the dawning, all right, then 3, we got full-blown light, all right, so from 3 with the full-blown light, we get into high noon, that's another word, but then from the high noon, the sun starts to go down, casting the shadows. That's number 4. Right, then when it casts the shadows from number 4, now we get into Nashap. Nashap, which is the sun is almost fully down now. Nashap. So we're gonna call that number 5. And now number 6 is Ilta or Alta. Alta or Ilta. That's the next day we're gonna go to from Genesis chapter 15, verse 17. Read that.
Then it was that the sun set.
The sun set, go ahead.
And the thick darkness was there.
The thick darkness was there. So that's the last stage right there. Look, read. Can you read that in Hebrew, please?
Wayahaya. Hashamash.
Mm-hmm.
Ba'a.
Mm-hmm.
Wa'ilta. Wa'alta. Haya.
So now read in English again.
Then it was that the sun set,
mm-hmm.
and thick darkness.
So that thick darkness when the sun set. All right. So the sun says that thick darkness is the Alta or the Alta. So now we have 6 over here as the Alta. All right. That's going into that thick darkness now, and now that's what we call we in the night now. So those are the phases that we go through every single day. So when people say, "Oh no, the day starts when the sun is up," no, it does not. We already showed that from Genesis, and we showed it from chapter 1, verse 5, and then we went to verse 8. Now we're showing you what happens in between the evening and the morning. All right. So let's number this. All right. So we say number 1 is dark. Number 2 is Nashap. Number 3 is what? Light. Number 4 is what? Tazalal. And then from Tazalal, which is like the shade or the shadow happens after that, we go to 5, which is going to be Nashap again. Okay, and then from the shop, we move to number 6, which is Alta. And then from Alta, number 7, we move to. Now there may be another one that I'm leaving off here after Alta, all right, or Ilta, which is 7. So now that's what we have. Now we went to the scriptures for all of these to show you, and now we're using the board to show you that cycle. So now what I'm gonna do, and this will be the last thing I'll demonstrate, and we'll call it a day. We'll call it a day. No pun intended, right? We'll call it a day. All right. So now the scripture says the evening and the morning. Okay, with the first day. So now what we're gonna do, so we're dealing with 3 main aspects of the evening. We're dealing with Nashap, and then we're dealing with Tazalal, and then we're dealing with Alta. Now Alta is straight dark. Tazalal is a shade or shadow, and the shop is, we call that D&D, dusk and dawn. All right. So now I'm gonna take it from the evening and the morning once again, and hopefully, this is just, we'll be able to just show it like this, and we'll get everything down packed, and then we for the day. So now in Genesis, read verse 5 again. Come. Or you can go ahead and read if you want to take a break. You go ahead and read it. Chapter 1, verse 5.
And Elohim called the light day,
Mm-hmm.
and the darkness he called night.
Mm-hmm.
And the evening and the morning.
The evening and the morning, go ahead.
Were the first day.
Were the first day. So the evening and the morning together made up the first day. Okay. So now what happened is the evening is, this is Irab. All right. So now with the evening, we have kind of like three things happening with the evening. When we start to go into the evening, okay. The first thing, well, it's kind of hard with Yahweh because he started from the darkness. So we have to kind of start the evening from the darkness. So we'll start from the evening, but then he made the light and he separated them. The evening and the morning were the first day. All right. So let's go from the evening, which is Iram, which is now I head home. So in this phase with the evening, we're gonna have this is the evening. All right. So now once we have the evening started, and then it jumps to what? It jumps to Bukhar. It jumps to morning. But what happens between the evening and morning? So when we read the Bible and it talks about the evening sacrifices, things like that, that's between 2 and 3 p.m. 2 and 3 p.m. So that's what we would call Tizalal. All right. So that's what we call Tizalal. So if we're going to go by the evening of how we sit now, going into the next day. So with that evening, when he made the light, now everything is moving. Everything is together now. All right. So now from the evening, all right, if you're coming from the darkness, then you start right here at Itah, the last phase of evening. You starting right there at Itah. All right. So now if you come to the morning, all right, so we have evening and then we have the morning. So now once we had that morning on day 1, now on day 2, which is Genesis chapter 1, verse 8, now we're coming into another evening, all right, from the morning time, all right? So now as we come into the evening from the morning time, let's go into that transition, okay? So now the first thing we're going to see is Tizalal, all right? Now remember, we're going to go into Tizalal. Now, Tizalal means shade. All right? Tizalal means shade. So we go into the shade first. Now, once we go into the shade, what happens next is we go into the Nashap. Okay? We go into Nashap. Okay, so then the shop is when we start to have the dusk. Okay, that's when we start to have dusk. We call that dusk. Okay, some people may call it twilight. Okay, twilight. I put L-I-T-E. So that's what we have. We'll say call that 1, 2, and then the third one we have is Ilta. Al-Ta. All right, we have Ayel, and then we have T-A-H, which is dark. Okay, which is dark. That's number 3. So now, once we have the Ilta, because remember it says the evening and the morning. So once we have the Ilta, what happens after that? After we have the Ilta, we go right back to what? To Nashap. So this is all the evening, and then we have the dark. Now, once we have that full darkness coming on the scene, and also before I get ahead of myself, we have, I believe we have a scripture where it calls I believe Job. When we see in Job 7:4, that's a verse where it says evening, where it says night, but but the Hebrew word there is actually eat. Let's look at that real quick. I need to look at the read that real quick, man. Job read Job 7:4 real quick.
When I lie down, I say, when shall I arise? And the night be gone.
Okay, so the night be gone. So when it says poof, night be gone, that word there is I rob. So Job is saying, when is this darkness gonna finish covering me, so I can rise up in the morning? So that word there is I rob. If that word there is I rob or irab. Read that part again.
And the night be gone.
When will the night be gone? So that word night there is not la yala, which is the traditional word that we hear for night. That word night there is irab. I rob. That's, you can come on in and sit down if you want to. That's I rob. So after this darkness, we still see, now that's a very beautiful example of how what does that show us? How I rob is sometimes used in the scriptures as a synonym for what? Anybody on the call, on the line, want to answer? I rob is sometimes used as a synonym for what? It would help if everybody kind of was available to look at the Hebrew too. All right. So sometimes I rob evening is used as a synonym for night. So when it's dark right here, now that's when we have that. See, these are all transitions that are between the dark and the light. Remember, right? The dark and the light. So now, what happens now? So now, after this, for the evening, we're still in the evening, we have the night. Everybody see that? So we got night now. So now once we go from night, we start to go into the morning. And what's going to be the first phase of the morning? The dusk, right? So dusk is going to be the first phase of the morning. And how do we say dusk? What is dusk? Nashap, right? So now from night, we go here to Nashap. Yeah. All right. To Nashap. Let's go ahead and put a number by there. Even though it might not be. So Nashap. And then from Nashap announces that it's the what? It's the morning. All right. So now we go into the morning. But Nashap also, it says the night, and called the light what? The day. All right. Called the light day. So Nashap also says that, okay, you know what? We are in a day now, which is the light period. Because this is all evening and the morning are one day. So the day, which is called what? In the Hebrew, the day of what? Was based on the what? The light. Based on the war. Right? Based on a war. All right? You see, so the day now is based on the light. So now once we get in the morning, and now the sun starts to come up, right? Once the sun starts to come up, they keep going higher and higher and higher, but you got to get the word for that in the body. It goes higher and higher. Actually, go to Wisdom of Solomon. No, go to Ecclesiasticus chapter 43, verse 1. Actually, let's not read verse 1. Let's read verse let's read verse 2.
The sun when it appeareth.
The sun when it what?
When it appeareth.
So he appears when? He appears at the Nashap. That's when the sun appears, right? At the Nashah. You see that, man? Ain't the Most High beautiful? The sun appears at the Nashah. So we see the whole cycle being explained to us in the Bible, but it's different pieces that we got to put together to see it clearly. So the sun, when it arises, go ahead.
Declaring it at his rising.
At his what?
At his rising.
Hold on, read that again.
The sun, when it appeareth.
When it appears, so that's when we have the Nashah. Hello, hey y'all. Yeah, I mean, hello. Hey, I'm ready to get back to work. I'm the sun. What up? Esau, I'm gonna burn you today, baby. Hope you got your PF nothing, because I'm gonna burn you today, Esau. Let's go to the beach. Let's go to the beach, Esau. Go into the beach. Oh, Israel, man. Oh, let me give you some more melanin, man. Some melatonin. Let me make your skin give you some more vitamin D's and all that, man. Go ahead, man. All right, now, Esau, you better watch out, buddy. I'm coming for you. You know what I'm saying? So now, read that part. I like that part. Read that again.
The sun.
When it what?
When it appears.
It appears. The sun appears. Now, once he appears, what does he do?
Declaring at his rising.
Declaring. See, here it is right here. See that? Let's say that's the sun. So now the sun appears. You see, look. First, you see the gold. See, that's the rays of the sun coming off. See that? I'm a science project. I'm a science project. So this is the rays of the sun. Now it said the sun does what?
Declaring at his rising.
So the sun. No, read the part again.
The sun, when it appeareth.
First is the Nashah. It appears. So now you see the sun rays coming up. And he does what?
Declaring at his rising.
He declares at his rising. See now the sun right here, the circle right there. He declares at his rising what?
A marvelous instrument.
I'm a marvelous instrument. Go ahead.
The work of the Most High.
The Most High made the sun. You see that? Go ahead.
At noon.
At what?
At noon.
When he's high in the sky. So now we're past the morning. We're at noon now. So from morning, we go to what? From morning, we go to noon. So we have 5. We can say 6. We can say 7. We go to noon. At noon, it does what?
It parcheth the country.
That means it's hot on the ground. The sun is burning things up. It's making the ground hot. The sand is hot. The dirt becomes hot. It makes everything hot. Read.
And who can abide the burning heat thereof?
Nobody can just sit in the sun and abide that heat, man. If you live on the sand, I don't care how brown you are. If you live on the sand, sometime when the sun is beaming on it, you're going to burn up. All right, what verse you in?
Verse 4.
All right. So we'll stop right there. So now once the sun at noon, what happens after noon? What happens after the sun rises at noon? What does he start to do now? What does he start to cast? The shadows. And shadow is what? What's the next phase we're going to? Tazalal, right? Tazalal. That's the shadows, the shade. That's the shade. And now, once you start going to Tazalal, what are we going into now? We're going into evening again. You see that? Because the way we know that is by Joshua. Nehemiah uses the word Tazalal. He said the gates began to get dark, which is Tazalal. Before, he says, before the Sabbath. Now, these scriptures ain't going to make no sense until you look at them, in the Hebrew. So he said the gates began to get dark before the Sabbath. All right. So which means that after it was what? After that darkness came, he said, now for sure we are in what? We're in the Shabbat. So it wasn't like as the gates began to be brighter before the Sabbath. He said, no, the gates got darker before what? The Shabbat. So when that darkness fully came in, the Shabbat started. You see that? So there goes another way from just looking at creation and looking at Genesis. We can show how the Sabbath starts. The Sabbath starts when the sun goes when the sun goes down. All right. So read the scripture. It says what now? Who had the scripture? All right, read what you were reading. No, we had no, we said when it goes down, when it starts to go down, to cast that shadow, we call that what? Tazalal, right? Tazalal. All right. Now, after it casts a shadow for Tazalal, what happens after that? After it casts a shadow for Tazalal, the next thing it does, once again, Tazalal is when it casts a shadow. Now, after it cast a shadow, now the sun came up, and what's he gonna do now? Huh? It's gonna go down the same way. We said that in Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. In is the opposite of out. The heavens opposite of earth. Light is the opposite of dark. So the sun goes up, so the opposite it has to what? Come down. So when it comes down again, you see the same amount of light, the same rays, and that's why it's called the that's why it's called the same word. That's why it's called the same word, which is nashap, which means dusk or dawn. Nashap. All right. So the sun is doing the exact same thing. So you call it nashap, which means dusk or dawn. But let's just say nashap. Man, it's nashap. All right, Shabbat is almost here. Then you say, oh, it's nashap. Shabbat is almost over, right? The same time period. All right. So after nashap, after nashap, what do we have after nashap now? All right. Anybody in the call can tell us, what do we have after the shop now? What happens after the shop? What happens again? Anybody on the conference line can answer that question? You don't got the answer. Okay, what is the answer? What happens after the shop? The Altar. Okay, yeah, after you got the Altar after that. Very good. So after the shop, you have the aisle, the iota, right? And after the iota, you have the what? You have the night. See that? You have the night. And these, remember, all three of these are part of the evening. Okay, all three of these are part of the evening. And then you have, that's why it says the evening and the morning were the first day, because the night is the last phase of the evening. And it's part of the first, it's part of the day. All right, so now you come into this right here, the night. Now you're beginning your day. All right, you begin the Hebrew day. The Hebrew day. So I hope that makes sense to everybody. You know, I thank everybody for your time. I know we got a lot of stuff up here. We're going to take this and master it, learn it, and now we can explain it and show people that the day begins at sunset. The evening begins the day. And we have three phases of that evening before we get to night. So that's why when you say sacrifice the Passover, it says Bayan ha'irabium. Between the evenings, which are 11, is used, that phrase, Bayan ha'irabium, fingernails out the mouth, is used 11 times in the scriptures. All right, Bayan ha'irabium, between the evenings, which means sometime between when the shadows start to come and before it gets dark out. Between the evening, you have to do certain things like sacrifice the Passover lamb. And then after that, like the scripture says, Yahweh separated, he called the darkness, which is chashak, he called the darkness night. And he called the day, he called the darkness night. And he called the light, which is our ward, he called it day or yawam. But we already showed that the day is composed of two types. The day, which is just the light, and the day that composes the evening and the morning, the Idab and the Bakwar. Now remember, the word Idab is not a definitive word. The word irab means mix, means mixed, but it also means I. It means I, like this, head, like this, house. I, head, house. I'm about to head to the crib. All right, I'm about to head to the crib. My head is about to lead me to the house. All right, so I, head, house. That's what it means. It says Iyan Ra'ash Bayat. This is literally what it means. So when you start to say, okay, I need to start, and that's what happens. What time do schools usually get out? Like what, 2, 3 o'clock, right? 3 o'clock you head home. And then after that, people get off work 5, 6 o'clock. That's when we get around this between Taziyal and dusk. And then by the time darkness fully comes in and nighttime has come, you're supposed to be, at the house. So like right now, we ending this day, and now in a couple of hours, we're supposed to be what? Going to sleep. A few hours, you're supposed to be laying down, going to sleep. It's like when you go to sleep at night, that's really like a long nap that's happening during the day. It's a long nap that's happening during the day. Right? So it's like a night nap, but everything is quiet and the earth is more smooth, so you're more in tune with nature. Right? Everything is quiet and calm and relaxed and it's dark, and it helps your body to regenerate itself. The darkness that you're in actually helps your body with melatonin. All right. And then it helps you rest better. And it secretes a whole bunch of different chemicals in your body to repair damages and to help you out where your body needs help at. And it all happens when you sleep, and it happens best when everything is dark. Right. But once again, the Most High didn't just make us say, okay, all of a sudden, light, dark. Okay, stop what you're doing. He gave us a transition. Like in the morning, get a transition. That's why the old folks used to get up when it was still dark. 4:30, 4:30, 3:30, 3:45, they get up. And when the sun starts going down, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 7:30, they ready to go to bed. You see? So that's how our bodies, can adopt themselves to be more, more healthy. All right. So now, once we get into this morning, we move back down into noontime. And then from noon, we go to Tazalal. All right. That's Tazalal is when the shadows start to get cast. And once those shadows start to get cast, the next phase is Nashap, which is the sun starts to go down, or the darkness starts to come back on the earth. All right. Because it was already happening before the sun was created. How do we know that? Because we had the evening and the morning, light and dark, and we had days being counted before the Most High even made the sun or made the stars. They just kind of got into the cycle that was already there. All right. And he gave them, he said, okay, now you the boss over the day, sun, and you the ruler over the night, moon. Okay, you're gonna rule the day, you're gonna rule the night. All right. So now the sun starts to transition his shift off his shift and gives it over to the moon, all right, in the evening. And then the moon starts to transition from her shift at nighttime and gives it over to the sun. And then he starts to take over from Nashap. But Nashap, you still got darkness and you still got light. And that's what the Most High put between. All right. This is very important. That Nashap is a very definitive word. So right before, all right, the sun goes down, that's when you have the Nashap. All right before it gets dark outside, that's what you have, the Nashap. That's that buffer zone, the last stage between light and dark. And now when the sun starts to come, when it's dark outside, all right, and when it's dark outside and then it starts to get brighter again, as it starts to get brighter, that stage right there, going from the darkness to the light, all right, that stage right there, going from darkness to light, is going to be the Nashap. It's going to start to get bright. So the Nashap is what you see when you're going from the light to the dark, and then when you're going from the dark to the light. That's what you see, the Nashap. The Aita is the last stage before the when you're going from the darkness, the night, The Alta is that period of the night when it's just dark outside. Like I said, thick darkness, as it said in Job, right? Was that Job? As it said in Job, the thick darkness. All right. And then after that, once again, you have the that thick darkness. All right. And then from there you move into the sun, the light starting to come back again within the shop. So just take these, look at the notes, review it, listen to it. You know, we gave the scriptures. When you're dealing with the I'm gonna say them again also. When you're dealing with the actually, you know what I'm gonna try what I'm gonna do for you. I'm gonna even give you the Strong's numbers real quick, all right? Which I'll have all right. So if you have I would encourage you to get eSword and use the eSword. You can use Blue Letter Bible if you want to, but eSword, you can do that at your house. You don't have to be online, you know, and you have, you know, different Bible versions. You have different Bible versions, you know, with the eSword. So the first thing we're gonna write is I'm gonna give you a little Strong's number. Tell them like they use the Strong's numbers, but we'll give them to you. Let's have let's start with Tizalal, okay? Tizalal, and that's gonna be Strong's 5399. All right, H. All right, that's gonna be that. Okay, from after that, you'll have the dusk, which is gonna be the Nashap. Okay, that's gonna be the Nashap. That's gonna be H 6751. All right, everybody gotten that? Okay. Maracay, you're gonna be able to see this one real good. Right, and then after that, you have the Iota. All right, and the Iota is H 5939. All right, now the scripture for Tizalal is going to be Nehemiah 13:19. Okay, the scriptures for Nashap, you have Job. Now these are all Job. Job 3:9, Job 7:4. Then you have Job 24:15. Now for Alta, you have Genesis 15:17. All right, so all right, so Genesis. Now remember, let's say 1, 2, and 3. All right, let's number them. And we're gonna say number 1. All right, Tizalal. This is gonna be like a shade. Okay. And number 2, the shop is gonna be like dusk and dawn. Dusk and dawn. All right. And then number 3 is going to be Ilta, which is now going to be into dark. Okay. Another word for this dusk and dawn also is going to be twilight. It's going to be twilight. Now, when it's talking about alita, it also goes into a dusk, but it goes into like a cover also. So it means dark, and then it means a cover also. Because remember, the word ayala means a pond. Ayala means like a pond. So this is the darkness that starts to spread and go upon everything. So these are the main words that we went into. We also talked about Ra'ash. Now we want to go into Proverbs. Let's go into Proverbs chapter 4, verse 7. I want to show you in Genesis 1:1 about how wisdom is the beginning from Genesis. When you read Genesis and it says in the beginning, what it's actually talking about is wisdom, right? So Proverbs 4:7, read that.
Wisdom is the principal thing.
So in the Hebrew, when it says wisdom is the principal thing, in the Hebrew it says wisdom is the head. Wisdom is the Ra'ashiyah. It says wisdom is the Ra'ashiyah. So wisdom is the Ra'ashiyah that we see in Genesis chapter 1:1. It's wisdom. Same exact word, Ba Ra'ashiyah, right? In wisdom, in the head. Go ahead.
Therefore, get wisdom.
So get wisdom. Learn what are the 7 pillars of wisdom, how to walk in wisdom. All these things are revealed to us from the Bible, the spirit of wisdom. Once we use the spirit of wisdom, these things become clear, and we can even use the Europeans' resources that he has out there to demonstrate that what we're saying, you can reference them easily and find them out for yourself. Go ahead.
And with all thy getting.
So with all the wisdom that you get, go ahead.
Get understanding.
Get bayan. Bayana. So know how to transition in between. Because bayan, the word between, is also a way to say the word understanding. You got bayan and bayana. So it means between, it means understanding. All right. So he said, with all you're getting, get understanding, get bayana. So know what are the transition, what's between this point and that point, and what do you need to behold, and what direction do you need to go in that. Now let's go into Proverbs 8:22. So wisdom is the principal thing. So when we read in the scriptures about the head, the beginning, the principle, all right, we're reading about wisdom when we go into Genesis when we go into Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. Now we're going to go into Proverbs chapter 8, verse 22. Read that, please.
Yahweh possessed me in the beginning of
wisdom said that Yahweh did what?
Possessed me
in
the beginning.
In the what?
The beginning.
So read that again and read it slowly. It says, read that very slowly, like you need help. Okay. Read it again.
Yahweh possessed me.
Yahweh possessed me. I want you to go to Genesis, man. Because I want you to go to, you like going to Genesis? Okay. I want you to go to Genesis. Yahweh possessed me. Read Genesis 1:1. Read Genesis 1:1. Read the first 3 words.
In the beginning.
Yahweh possessed me. Proverbs 8:22 says what? Yahweh possessed me.
In the beginning.
Genesis 1:1.
In the beginning.
Proverbs 8:22.
In the beginning.
Genesis 1:1.
In the beginning.
Proverbs 8:22.
In the beginning.
Genesis 1:1.
In the beginning.
Proverbs 8:22.
In the beginning.
Genesis 1:1.
In the beginning.
Proverbs 8:22.
In the beginning.
Read that again.
Yahweh possessed me.
Yahweh possessed me. When?
In the beginning.
In the beginning. So when we read about the beginning in Genesis 1:1, we're actually reading about wisdom and what she did from creation. What she did from the beginning. So it's Yahweh is working through Yahawashi. Okay? And then Yahawashi is working through the Elohim. And the Elohim are working through Chakma, wisdom, Chakma. So Chakma is the one that's going through everything, putting everything straight, making everything get in order. Chakma is the one that's okay, we have the elements from the beginning. Because Chakma goes through everything. All right? So is that the last part of that verse? All right, keep reading.
In the beginning of his way.
In the beginning of his way. Bara'ashiath. Bara'ashiath darakwa. In the beginning of his way. Go ahead.
Before his works of old.
Before his works of old. His ancient works. He possessed wisdom. So when we read about in the beginning, we're reading about Chakma. We're reading about in the beginning. We got in the beginning twice in that verse, referring to wisdom. Read Proverbs 8:22 one more again.
Yahweh possessed me in the beginning of
Yahweh possessed wisdom in the beginning of his way. Read.
Before his works of old.
Yahweh possessed me in the beginning of his way, right? In the beginning of his way, which is in the beginning, Bara'ashiath. Go ahead.
Before his works of old.
Before his works of old. Go ahead. Oh, I thought we had beginning twice. I read it again.
Yahweh possessed me in the beginning.
Yahweh possessed me in the beginning. Go ahead.
Before his works of old.
Before the works of old. That's it. Yahweh possessed me in the beginning before the works of old. So we have Ra'ashiath once in that verse then. Okay, what's the next verse say?
I was set up from everlasting.
So wisdom was set up from everlasting. So Yahweh knew from the beginning that this is the instrument that he was going to use to do all his creation. Read.
From the beginning.
From the what?
From the beginning.
From Ra'ashiath. So from the beginning of the beginning. This is the beginning that we read about in John 1:1. There was a beginning before Genesis 1:1. All right. But it didn't pertain to us on this earth and us, the stars in the sky. We see the beginning with Asha, wisdom doing creation. But there's another creation that took place. We read about it in Colossians when all of the principalities, everything was created by Hamashiach, Yahawashi, and Yahweh had wisdom sitting with him. He had Yahawashi, his son, sitting with him also. All right. So these are the things that we need to go through. Hey, Iraq, when we get off here, I'm gonna call you on Messenger because I have some questions I need to ask you about the Jericho spiritual battle. All right. So this is what we have right here. Take this, study it, learn it. And also, we didn't even get into the spiritual principles. We kind of did. But remember, wisdom is there so we can understand these dark sayings. Literally, we're dealing with darkness in Genesis. Then we can extract the knowledge out of it. And we can see what is the wisdom of the knowledge that we've taken out of these particular sayings and this history and this account of what Yahweh wants us to know. And we go deep and beyond the surface. We kind of went a little bit deep tonight, but we came back up. So I hope this is going to be beneficial to how we look at time, how we look at the moon, how we look at the day. All right, the balance. Remember, Ecclesiasticus, what was it, 42 and 24, right? 42 and 24 says that he puts the balance. He creates things in contrast. All right, two against two, And then we read in what was the first one you read? 33, 15. So look upon the works of the Most High, and there are two and two, one against another, showing that everything has a contrast. It's an opposite. And he put a division. He literally said he divided, oh, it's gone now. He literally said he divided the light from the dark. And he began the creation with the darkness. And then the light was created later, and he put these buffer zones in between the light and the dark. So why would he say, I'm gonna put these buffers on between light and dark, but begin in the light? No, he began in the dark with the evening, starting from the Tzalal, and then going into the Tzalal, and then going into the Nashap, and then from the Nashap going into the Altar, and then from the Altar going into what? Going into the night. All right, so that's about it for tonight. Man, 146. Okay, we need to go. So the next new moon is going to be February 3rd. All right. I'm sorry. February 3rd, right? It's going to be next new moon. February 3rd is going to be the next new moon. All right. Now, after that, we're going to have the Passover is going to be on sunset of April 18th to sunset of April 19th. And that's the first day of Passover, Feast of Unleavened Bread. The last day of Passover, Feast of Unleavened Bread, is going to be on April 24th to April 25th, sunset to sunset. Mark it, sorry for blocking that. Mark it on your calendars. Mark it on your calendars, and now those are the days that we have for Passover. All right, so may Yahweh be with you. In the name of Yahweh Shai HaMashiach. Went over a lot of information today. I'm trying to get better at cutting it down simpler, and may Yahweh give me the strength to do that if that's his will. So we just get in there and get out, and don't gotta have these, 2-hour classes every time. So may Yahweh be with you in the name of Yahweh Shai.